famed author Clive Cussler,
the hero Dirk Pitt.
The Mediterranean Caper. Episode 3. Villainous Villains.
And I was kind of hoping your wife was the extrovert to pull this together. Like, how many times have we met? This is the first time I'm not like in a blind panic for a social interaction. And you're nice. I like you. You're fine. But the social anxiety was off the charts.
Yeah,
now it's fine.
Same here. That's how I feel all the time. So
It's constant. I'm like, am I touching my face? What do I do with my hands? Is the other person going to think I'm weird? I should just go home and take a nap.
That's it. Stop recording. I'm out of here.
and I was also like, we met on Reddit. He says he has a wife. Odds are. So I had a checklist. Was she being held against her will? Show me on the doll where you're being held captive. But that's not because of you. That's simply because of the platform we met on.
Yeah, that was actually one thing that I was going to start off the episode with. Right now just might end up in the witty banter portion of the show because I started recording.
Oh, we started?
Just because I don't talk to people. I work in the corner of a very large, very empty office all by myself. Before that, I worked in a cubicle, and I only talked to people when they brought me work. I don't really have any friends up here. Like, I try and meet people, but I'm just kind of a quiet person. I have a speech impediment, which, you know, at this age, I've done pretty well to hide, but I do have a stutter and a stammer on hard consonants and sibilants, so like C's, K's, L's, S's, and Q's. So I start a Clive Cussler podcast, which is composed entirely of letters I have a hard time saying. And I realized on the last episode, I started to say Clive Cussler and stopped myself and said something else.
We could just call him Clive.
While I was editing. Well, that's hard too, but that's one of the reasons I'm having a beer, because I stutter less when I've had a drink. I stutter less when I'm warmed up. I stutter less when I can plan out my sentences ahead of time. And this is all probably just good practice for me.
Yes, I have a gin and tonics, and I start shortly before, because it is a social lubricant. I'm calmer, and I'm slower, and it's just all around easier. I mean, I'm sure it makes driving better.
I'm not driving anywhere.
But I've never noticed any speech problems. From you.
Well, thank you. Also, if you like gin, you will also definitely get along with my wife. Mojitos and dark and stormies are her favorite things.
Oh, I don't know what a dark and stormy is, but a mojito is very nice.
Dark and stormy is a gin and ginger ale.
Oh, yeah, I've had that. That's like you run out of tonic and ginger ale is left in the glass.
Dark and stormy is dark rum, ginger ale, and lime. Well, she uses gin and ginger ale and lime.
That's good. Rum is for pirates.
I hate rum. Her custom drink, do you know what aquavit is?
Yes.
Her favorite drink is aquavit and ginger ale, and she calls that the Stockholm Syndrome. Because after a few, you really start to make friends with it.
Or you can't leave the bank. That drink could lead to being shot by a bystander.
She got hooked on aquavit when we were in Iceland and has her own favorite brand and everything.
I meant to ask you, did you have any hot dogs in Iceland?
No. Okay, I had one. It kind of sucked, but we also heard about the hot dogs, but we were there on the shoulder season, so there were no street vendors. I mean, it was awesome in the restaurants. It was awesome in the bars, but kept hearing about the hot dogs, and I had one hot dog, and it was just like a hot dog in a bread tube with mayonnaise, and like, this is fine. I want one of the crazy ones.
There's a Japanese market, Firehouse. Why? I don't know. There's no Japanese. East Coast, New York State, there's like no Japanese culture. Because of the way of westward expansion in the U.S., Japanese people tend to go to the West Coast. But Japanese market here, fried chicken, hot dogs, rolled in powdered sugar. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. Do not recommend. But they look fantastic.
Should one of us do the intro?
Oh, yes. Welcome, listeners, to the Cussler Hustlers. Oh, that was terrible. Hi, welcome to the Cussler Hustlers. On this episode, we're tackling Chapter 5.
We just ended Chapter 5.
Welcome to Cussler Hustlers. We're being accurate. It's not important. And this chapter brings us to Dirk getting a ride. Pre-Uber. It is a 1936 Maybach Zeppelin, black with silver trim, Teutonic craftsmanship. I wrote just like Bridget Nielsen. He gets in the car. He doesn't like the driver. He's like a Nazi Ned there. And he just punches the guy in the face, which is a really risky maneuver. Punch a guy right in the mouth. If he bites you at all, and he's got gingivitis, you're gonna get fright bite. You can't explain that in the hospital. They're gonna call the police. Luckily, Dirk escapes that fate and just goes right into dinner, leaving the heap of the driver in a chauffeur puddle.
Well, because that's just something that you can do when you're an Air Force major in a foreign country. Just start knocking out the locals.
And the chauffeur's working environment is really toxic. Nobody goes to help him.
Well, good.
Why even commit at that point? Your boss doesn't seem bothered. You got punched in the face.
He spent all morning spying on Dirk and Terry having beach sex, so...
Yes, he was sent to watch them, to protect Terry, because she needs protection. She's getting slap sex on the beach with randos. Maybe she needs to go into a facility, get some long-term treatment, some self-esteem, and not get slap sex by Dirk on the beach.
Or just have the weird Nazi driver watch over you and make sure that... Well, I guess not really make sure that nothing bad happens to you. Just watch bad things happen to you and then report back to her uncle.
I hear that's a popular genre. And the man that Dirk meets after punching the chauffeur in the mouth is Bruno von Pitt.
Von Till.
Von Till, yes. I even have the translation. In Swedish, that's...
Von Pitt would be amazing if it was his evil uncle, not Terry's.
That's going to be coming some... The evil twin? Sooner or later, even if we have to write ourselves.
Yeah, I love how Bruno is described, because... My notes say that he's, like, the word villainous is used twice in one paragraph, along with thick, bald, and evil. So they just straight up tells you, like, a fifth of the way into the book, here's the villain. Dirk knows it, the reader knows it.
His name is, this is what you dress as, this is the way you behave, this is full villain. You've got the lair, which we've already discussed. And he's as subtle as a sequin sledgehammer.
The lair, it turns out, was a temple to Minerva. I'm going to edit that so I sound competent. A temple to Minerva that he fixed up after Zivor. And Von Till is surprised to find out that Pitt is a major, not a garbage man.
That's all the talking he had to do. Like, you're a mentally defective person that's hitting on my niece. You're just missing now. You said you were a garbage collector? You've got something... You don't have sandwiches for a picnic. We're going to roll this carpet up.
I think if he was a garbage man, then he definitely would have been rolled up in a carpet like 5 minutes after this conversation. But since he is an Air Force major and he's wearing his full dress uniform, Von Till's like, okay, let's see where this goes. And they have a drink, and Pitt immediately toasts the Hawk of Macedonia just to let on that he knows, exactly what's going on with the attack on Brady Field. Because Pitt has the subtlety of dropping an anvil on somebody.
Why throw a stone when a nuke will do? When you play chess, or when you go to battle, I don't do either of those things, but I guess that you don't put all of your plans on the table first. You don't say, I know everything about you, this is how I will defeat you, because I've determined you're a bad guy by these metrics. Which is what... He's a bad planner. And he's kind of crazy.
Yeah, my note here was you should always let your enemy see your cards. And that is something that these books do early on. He gets a lot better with it, but I think he's just too enamored with the act of writing at this stage, because he'll set something up, and rather than pay it off down the line, he'll set it up and pay it off immediately, just so he can be like, yes, that was awesome, I did it.
I can't fault him for that.
Like, this reads like I do mean this in the nicest possible way. I have a lot of nostalgia for these books, but this reads just like somebody in high school who discovers that they have a knack for writing. And obviously it's going to take some time to get polished, but you can tell just how much fun he's having and the complete lack of artfulness that comes with it.
And the quick payoffs, he's probably giving it to his wife or girlfriend or best friend or whatever. Here, read this. You have the problem with the resolution. You're going to get great feedback.
They're like, oh, that makes sense.
It's simple to read, and it ties up quickly. All of your friends and family that a writer has, he's going to force them to read this material, they're going to really positive feedback for the short, sweet stuff. Have you ever
Hmm.
received a book by a family member and you're like, oh, I have to read this now?
Not from a family member. I have gotten that for a lot of friends online and the occasional real person I know. I try and let them down easy. Like of
Oh,
course, I try, I try and be constructive. Like it's always like, here's what I liked. Here's what I think could be done better. I would do this, this, and this. But occasionally, it's just bad.
yeah, it often is. Or it's not your thing. But if you've got something that's like 3 pages long, there's a problem, there's a solution, you're going to be like, he didn't make me do a lot of homework. I'm going to give it an A. My husband's grandfather wrote a book every year after he retired, and I had a coworker that would read them for me. I'd pay her because these books are terrible. I've read some stinking books, uh, but this would be about dating after your first wife dies and how wonderful it is to be around all these beautiful women who are in there. Oh, it was his dating strategy. It was very uncomfortable.
Oh, it's a Dirk Pitt novel. Okay.
It was super uncomfortable to read about your grandpa-in-law. So I
Yeah.
outsourced it, and it was so bad. One year I got back, and I was like, "Here, these were Vanity Press books."
Hmm.
So I was gonna hand it. She's like, "Don't you dare! I'm not reading another one." I'd get these book reports back, and she'd just be like, pretty lady, they're all 60. He wins one at the end."
Yeah, so many stories like that for, I guess, young authors or people who are just new into writing. You can always tell what they like. Like,
Redheads.
well, no.
Grandpa liked
Okay,
redheads,
yes, redheads.
apparently.
But I mean, like, when they're writing a story, you can always tell, like, what are the exciting things in their head that they're excited to write about. So, like, the fight scenes will be 10 times better than the dialogue, or the descriptions of the magic system will be 10 times better than the fight scenes.
Those are all great. It's all great when it's not, yay, grandma's dead. I can hit the street.
Yeah, your context is a little rougher for that.
Every year. Uh, One of them was, if you want to catch a mouse, make it sound like cheese. That he blew his whole load on the title.
I was like, I can't tell if that's like an award-winning literary novel or just a bad children's book.
It was a murder whodunit.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the right tone.
Murder mysteries, like a lot of them do have those weird and wacky titles. So,
What it was it was fun. He had a great time, and it's a great way to remember him and move it because he was a fun, brilliant man uh, who loved salami and traveling and redheads.
hey, write what you know. If you can't write what you know, write what you wish you knew.
Oh, and then for Dirk here, he gets they have dinner, they have oysters with nuts and stuff, which sounds very 60s and kind of awesome and kind of terrible at the same time.
They once again meet up with Terry, who's wearing a gold mini dress, and this is when she realizes that he's a major and not a garbage man. I had to write this one down. In the same sentence, she becomes both beautiful and sexy as soon as like she sees him and smiles.
Oh, I wrote down Dirk is a second date asshole. Different
Well,
notes off.
that too. By the end of the meal, she's terrified. Like she's freaking out. She's looking back and forth between Dirk and her uncle Von Till, and she's nervous and she's upset. I'm not entirely sure if she tries to like warn Dirk or not, but then she just like starts crying, and Von Till sends her out of the room, and it's a really, really awkward dinner.
Yes.
I'm not sure Clive Cussler had a plan for this dinner. He's like, I'm going to put all three of them in the same room. And then after a few sentences, this is very tense. I'm going to get the three of them out of the same room.
Oh, this is where the murmuring took place. After she was sent away, Dirk leans in and murmurs to Von Till. I take issue with the word murmur. Nobody murmurs. The definition of murmur is an indistinct voice or group of voices. So, you know, Liam Neeson murmurs. I can't hear a word he says. Other than a bum heart murmurs, movie extras murmur. Your main guy is not supposed to murmur. You write the dialogue. He's not murmuring. Nobody murmurs. Take this out of books.
I think he murmurs when he's like leaning in real close and being like, hey, guess what I did with your niece?
Yes, but if the words on the page are distinct, you can't murmur on a page.
He found a way.
Oh, he did. He overcomes everything. Oh, and the next part, I really felt for Dirk because I resurfaced my my cement floor in the basement this week, so he gets scraped across concrete.
Well, we're not quite there yet because we still haven't gotten to them screaming at each other. After she runs out, Von Tail is just like demanding information from Pitt about the attack on Brady Field because, Pitt knows he's the villain knows that he was there, they both know that the other person knows. We've gotten all possible mystery out of the way. So now they're just being really, really snarky.
And the woman left without being slapped. She's learning.
Yeah. And one sentence I wrote down with, "I think this is gross, ask Nancy."
What part?
When Von Till says, "When we were little boys, we believed in Santa Claus. When we were bigger boys, we believed in virgins."
What part of that is gross? Specifically that you think?
I don't know. Like, in this setting, it's obviously that he's talking about his own niece.
I thought it was really sex positive. He was like, oh, she's smiling. Naturally, for her to smile, she has to get kind of assaulted on the beach, slapped around a bit, then seduced, which I'm sure my uncle, your uncle, they all love talking about their nieces and nephews in this light. Very casual and comfortable conversation.
Your God, I hope not.
But we're not Greek or German or in the Mediterranean. I didn't have oysters tonight. Maybe that changes everything.
See, that's why I'm asking you. I don't know these things. I'm very sheltered.
You're very well.
Based on everything else that's happened in this book, I was assuming it's creepy.
Less creepy than other things. And I could say, yeah, I would believe in virgins up until a point too, because you couldn't say you weren't in the 60s. So yeah, it would all be a lie. There was no sex positivity.
I guess that's true.
I'm not going to knock on Till for creepiness here. He was happy his niece was happy. And then he's going to resolve that.
Yeah, so their argument reaches a head, and Von Till says he couldn't possibly be the pilot. It specifically says Pitt got bored, and he just accuses him of being the pilot who attacked Brady Field, and Von Till says that he's gone too far now and kicks him out of the villa. And this is where I start to wonder if Dirk really suffered some brain damage when he hit his head on the bathroom door handle. No, wait, that was Al hit his head on the bathroom door handle.
Yeah,
Pitt must have hit his head. Pitt must have hit his head at some point in this book, because Von Till tells him,
might have that CTE, repeated head trauma.
Yeah, exactly.
Indistinct events.
Tells him, get out of my villa, but not that way. Let's take this little dark corridor, and I'll open up this little door that's darkness beyond, and if you go through this corridor, it'll spit you back out in the driveway.
Welcome to my house. You must leave through the torture dungeon.
Yeah, and Dirk's like, okay, I'll go inside.
Why are there stompy rooms?
And then Von Till says if Pitt comes back, he'll kill Terry, and Pitt just shouts, "You rotten shit-eating kraut," and then Von Till slams the door, and all the candles go out, and he's in pitch darkness, and you're so dumb.
I think a lot of dysregulated emotions there. He's kind of bipolar. And I don't hate him for that.
Yes.
But he's got to see it. It's not his fault, but it is his responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, he flies into a rage at his friends, then he apologizes, and then he has a couple of drinks, and he's better.
Yes, he goes from dry mirth to this godlike understanding of the universe and everything, to rage, lust, slapping bystanders, back to rage. It's an emotional roller coaster.
Mm-hmm. So that's the end of chapter 6. More stuff happens in chapter 6 than most of the book until now.
Not one measured response yet. Every action is met with a bonkers reaction.
Yep. And now we have Pitt wandering through the torture dungeon.
Yes. Chapter 7, I wrote Dirk the Dog Killer. He didn't know. I have a dog. 2 of them. You have a dog. We have experience with animals. You're going to know exactly that there's a wet dog that speaks with you. I don't care if it's a football field. He's in the dark. He doesn't. What manner of beast is breathing on him? Wet dog, sir. It's a wet dog, sir.
I don't know. My dog doesn't smell that bad, although that might just be a thing with huskies because it has the double coat, so it doesn't get wet like normal dogs.
Husky. My neighbor has a husky. They do smell okay. They don't shed.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Is my husky shedding right now? Just buckets of hair coming out because the entire undercoat comes out as soon as it hits the spring.
Oh yeah, but in the winter when you pet the dog, right, it doesn't come off like it.
Oh no!
These keep falling out. I hate that. I was surprised. Our neighbor had a puppy. They got a puppy when they were pregnant. They're like, oh no, we'll keep this puppy. They were lucky they didn't have twins. It's like Argentina around here. Everybody has multiples. One dog and one baby, kind of doable. The people over here have triplets. There's 2 sets of triplets and an untold number of twins around here. They can count themselves lucky just getting one baby. One baby, one dog. Far less scary than two.
My wife's mom is a twin, and I think her mom is a triplet. So we were
Her
worried
mom
it
was a
was going to
triplet?
run in our family. My wife's grandma is a triplet, yeah.
Really?
So we were a little worried it might run in her family, but woo, nope.
I always attributed it around here to IVF. People starting families later, IVF,
Oh,
and that is certainly a huge part of it. But the spontaneous triplets, no IVF in these families. It must be in the water. We're getting bottled water.
so chapter 7. Pitt is wandering through the dungeon, wishing he hadn't been such a giant idiot, is what I have written down. But he did steal a knife from dinner, because as soon as Von Til started screaming at him, he realized, you know, this probably isn't good. I'm alone in this villa. The only people who know that I'm here are Al and, by extension, the entire U.S. military. But no one would come for Dirk. He's probably super annoying. They'll be happy to get rid of him.
Sure, there wouldn't be an elevated alert status. It's not like anything happened the day before.
No.
It's just rolling under the rug.
And one sentence I had to write down. There's like one sentence from each chapter that just leaps out at me and I can't get it out of my head. When all the candles go out and he's in pitch darkness, it was invisible but still audible.
I loved the paragraphs explaining the darkness. As dorky as they were, I loved them. He went to a dark room and had feelings, and some kind of 1960s, maybe a Quaalude. What were they doing? Something fun that would be really expensive now. Like he probably had a pill that would, today's economy be like $1 million. And experienced darkness in ways that had texture and vibrancy. He saw colors that only exist in darkness in the mind.
But it's like I was saying earlier with new authors, when they're writing, you can tell what they enjoy writing. You can tell what they're psyched to finally get to. And this whole chapter is just very pulp action man. Like he's constantly grinding himself against stone. He's scraping himself against concrete. He's bleeding. He falls. He hits his head. He almost blacks out, but he's so manly that he decides not to. He falls into despair because the airfield's going to be attacked again with no one to warn them. But then he just forces himself back upright and keeps walking. Like it's just all of these manliness tropes over and over and over again, just in fast forward.
Yes, the sentence I liked was he grabbed his smithereened crotch. It wasn't smithereened in the book, but he grabbed his torn up crotch. Why? Why was that a detail to be pointed to?
I think we've skipped over why he has a smithereened crotch. So he's in the tunnels with Von Til's German Shepherd, who I guess
Oh yes,
its own side entrance. And there's like this extended scene where he's being stalked through the darkness. And right when he thinks it's close, I guess he can smell it. He lights his lighter and throws it and sees the dog about 8 feet away about to pounce.
yes, and this is where I was losing my mind. This is after he describes the darkness and his cool kind of Zen vibe with it. As a person who's lived on Earth with smells and various experiences with dampness, this doesn't make any sense. It's not that big of a dog. It's not. It's not a dragon. He's Dirk. He can handle. He doesn't have to kill the dog. It's not a devil dog. It's not possessed yet that we know of. It might come back.
German Shepherds aren't as big as people think they are. I mean, they are police dogs, they are guard dogs, they are attack dogs, but that's not because they're especially big or fierce. It's because they're exceptionally easy to train.
Yes, they're obedient.
Described as like he's in the dungeon with a dragon or something, like this unstoppable killing machine. And it leaps at him and he rolls onto his back and stabs upwards with the knife with lightning quick reflexes and disembowels it, but it claws him and bites him before it can die, and he's covered in blood and he blacks out, but then he unblacks out because he's so tough.
Well, in fairness to Dirk, the option is dying and the book ends there. That's very short. And there's no more series.
The book must keep going.
Speed of plot.
So he's counting down because he has his glow-in-the-dark watch, which makes an appearance in every book. This Doxa watch.
That had to be so cool back then.
He loves this watch.
Look, the thing I have, it glows.
So he knows the airfield is going to get attacked at dawn. He knows dawn is in 6 hours and 55 minutes. So now we put a ticking clock on this, which is something that you have to have in these stories. And he's jogging. He's determined. He's blood-soaked. I've just written down all the words. Cold, sweaty. He rejected the urge to lie down. And 2 hours later, and he's still walking. How long is this tunnel? It's 2 hours later,
Yes. He thinks he blacked out for, or he realized he blacked out.
He does black out because after the 2 hour mark, he trips and falls and he bashes his face open on some stairs.
Yes, but when he notices the time, that's when he realized he blacked out. The reader knows that earlier, which is fine. This isn't an essay we're reading. This is the ramblings of a man who really likes Yuma.
He wakes up, his nose is broken, his forehead's bleeding. He checks the time. He's got like 2 hours to go. He crawls up the stairs and he finds that it's blocked off with iron bars. But on the other side of the iron bars is the outside. There's stars and fresh air.
Yes, but once again, we're at a point in the book that's for the ladies. Dirk's going to take it off. He's going to take it all
Yeah,
off.
I was going to hand it over to you for this extremely drawn out and lurid sequence we get here.
Yeah, I love all of my men to have just murdered a dog and be covered in pet blood. It was a horror
Hot,
show.
right? He's so manly.
Cussler, did he ever meet a woman? Did he?
I think he was married for like this entire period. I think he was married to the same woman.
It was rhetorical. It's okay. We don't need facts. Let me conjecture. How do we have a podcast if I can't make shit up?
Married 1955, died 2003.
His wife or him?
His wife.
Oh.
So he'd been married for 20 years when he wrote this story.
Well, it certainly shows. Yeah.
Also, gosh darn, do I wish I'd remembered this fact earlier in the story. So, in his memoirs, The Sea Hunters, which I hope we'll get to at some point, Clive Cussler revealed that his father fought in the Imperial German Army in the Western Front during World War I.
Clive Cussler's dad fought in the German Army?
Yes.
Really? Wow. Oh, there's going to be no daddy issues there. All those guys were totally well-adjusted and raised their sons A-okay. Nothing bad came of it.
And one of his uncles was in the Imperial German Air Service and became a flying ace, shooting down 14 Allied airplanes. I feel there's a lot of family history went into the Mediterranean caper.
That's wonderful. I'm so happy for him.
Yeah, that's fabulous.
Eventually he joined our side. So his family allies.
Yeah, I guess, because after the war, apparently his father moved to Aurora, Illinois, and met his mother, who's from England. I'm pretty sure they were on opposite sides of that war, right? And got married and moved to California.
That's a lot of potatoes it's going to be. And a German and a Brit. There's no salt in that family.
It was an insane time. You had to be there. I did not mean to fight on the bad side. That was all wrong.
It wasn't that bad. Well, the First World War. I'm exclusively, listeners, talking about the First World War. There was a misguided.
Yeah.
It was complicated. Pre-Nazi stuff.
Oh, it was ridiculously complicated. I've listened to a bunch of podcasts on it and just how complicated everything was with the treaties and defense treaties and peace treaties and who was allied with who. But it was also all these countries just looking for an excuse to expand and solidify borders.
It was going to happen no matter what. World War I, my mother was obsessed with it, so I heard about it constantly and I've studied it, of course. But it's just the sadness of it. All these boys who were babies, you look at the pictures, they look like infants.
Mm-hmm.
And they were signing up because they were told to, because they wanted to be proud, because they informed they were from the best families and they went to the best schools and they were just going to march. These kids milk cows. 6/8 of all people in Western Europe worked or lived on a farm. They were accustomed to banal violence, like having to kill a chicken, having to put down your kid if he breaks his leg. But war, the government's really sold out all of their population.
Yeah.
Fun times.
All right, I'll turn off the Wikipedia article and get back to the story here.
Let's talk. No, more meat grinder.
Okay. Oh, right. Okay, so meat grinder. So Dirk has to squeeze through the bars.
Oh yes, good segue. He's taking things off. He's using the shirt to wipe off the dog blood.
He rubs himself down with more blood and sweat because he has to get himself lubricated.
Gross.
Yep.
Just what did that smell like? I'm so glad this book isn't directive on that.
And it describes his body in extreme detail as he crams 190 pounds through rusty bars, with special mention for how much it hurt scraping his genitals on the way through.
Yes. Smithereen.
First the dog, now the rusty bars.
You know, I didn't, as a woman reading this, I didn't realize the implication until now of why he was focused so much on his crotch. Naturally, that would have a hard time squeezing through because you can't insinuate that he's anything other than an anaconda smuggler. And that just didn't occur to me.
Well, that's what's occurring to all the guys who are reading this. They're like, yes, Dirk is just like me, and fantasizing a little bit about what that means. Because these are fantasy novels. That's
Yes.
like it's not like swords and sorcery, but these are absolute fantasy novels.
Oh yes. Back in chapter 6, when we're talking about dinner, so we're gonna go back in time now. Von Till was like, "Oh, my niece slaved over this dinner. She had to oversee the kitchen."
Oh, right.
That was my bit of fantasy in the novel. I'm like, just that's how dinner gets made. Just oversee. That was for the ladies. That there was for the ladies.
She slaved all day over a hot servant.
That could be a total different chapter.
Yep. Different fantasy novel.
One that's very economically viable.
So he gets outside. He's all scraped up. He's bruised. He's navigating by the stars, trying to figure out how to, head south and head for Brady Field again. But he sees that the horizon is starting to lighten up. And he checks his watch and realizes that, he blacked out at the bottom of the stairs for 5 hours and it's almost dawn. So he has to get back to Brady Field.
And to recap, he's blacked out. He's got a broken nose. His crotch has some kind of untold damage. His clothing situation is dire. Have you ever had any of the crotch aside? But have you ever blacked out, been knocked out, had a nose broken? You've had the car accident. Did you black out?
No. I have had my nose broken. I've never blacked out.
Really? With the nose broken? You didn't black out? Good for you. Or bad for you, depending.
I know I might not look like it. Maybe I do. I can't tell. I can never seem to tell what I look like. I have done various martial arts for about 20 years, MMA for 7, and I've competed a few times. And I got my nose busted up at the Tiger Bomb Internationals in 2016.
Oh.
But through all of that, I've never once been knocked out or blacked out or anything. Hard head, I guess. But
okay.
Yeah, I got my nose busted.
And how were you that day? Were you making wise decisions?
Oh, I was fine.
Oh, you walked it off? Rubbed some dirt in it? Did you fight again? Are you real life Dirk? Did you fight after fighting in breaking?
Yeah, I mean, I fought 4 times that day, and I broke my nose in the 3rd fight, and I still had one more fight to go. But the medic there was a lot of people there for sanitary reasons. They have to make sure that they get the blood to stop. So I'm standing there in front of the ref, and this medic is just jamming Q-tips up my nose over and over and over again, like going crunch, 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 crunch with my nose. And I can't feel a thing because I'm still on the adrenaline from the fight. I'm like, no, it feels fine to me. I'm like, okay, we can't make the blood stop. I'm like, okay, can you jam some stuff up there? I'm like, no, that's not working. I'm like, oh. So that fight got called on medical stoppage. And I was just like, I had 13 seconds to go. And I was like, fine. So.
Oh, were you winning? 13 seconds?
Probably not. I didn't do good that day. I am not a competitive fighter. I realized after all of my my various attempts.
Oh, okay.
I love training. I love sparring. I love combat sports of all kinds, but I do not have the sort of personality that it takes to go into the ring and try and kill the other guy.
No, I'd much rather never fight and maybe just learn to hack and ruin a guy's credit score or something. I don't want to. Violence is very not my thing. But how'd your nose? You were touching your nose a lot. Did I make it tingle by talking about it?
Oh no, it's fine now.
Okay. I was going to make a larger point, but I wasn't expecting, a Man of Steel to say, yeah, he could walk off a broken nose. I've had 2 concussions.
Oh wow.
Slipping on ice, nothing exciting.
Ooh.
But the last one was a doozy. I was pregnant, and I slipped. Your feet come out from under you, a different center of gravity.
Mm-hmm.
Cracked my head open. Couldn't do math for a month. And not oh, I'm a girl, I can't do math. I'm I didn't understand counting. It gets knocked out of you for a while.
Ooh. Yeah, that's definitely rougher than anything I got. I've gotten surface stuff, not brain stuff.
And I guess my family breaks bones. Not the girl child. The boy child has been to a hospital once every 6 months since he was born, and he's kind of useless after he breaks something. So I've broken bones, and I just oh, bummer, time to go home. Let's roll this up. But I'm an indoor kid. And thank you for your perspective. Okay, this guy's gonna rub some dirt in it, go save the world. I should have just not had kids and stopped my obviously inferior genetic offspring from populating the earth. But injuries be damned, he's gonna go forward, and he's got, what, an hour and a half?
He's got an hour and a half. And I realized earlier I said that he had to stop Von Till from attacking Brady Field again. No, Von Till was attacking the first attempt. He was attacking the boat, not the airfield.
Yes, the first attempt.
Everyone go back and pretend I didn't say that.
Which is a name I love, because it's so far from the Forlorn Hope.
Yeah, it's a great name. If there's one thing that Cussler loves, it's boats. Every single one of these books deals with a half dozen boats in a shipwreck and something underwater and something that you have to dive for. And...
Well, he's a vehicle dude. He loves
yeah,
cars, boats, submarines. Oh, and there was the detail we missed with the model submarine. There was a Chekhov submarine.
That was at the very start of chapter 6 when he's exploring the villa. There's a model of a German U-boat.
Yes.
Well, I guess it wasn't. Was it a U-boat if it was World War I, or was it just be like a submarine? Was U-boat World War II?
No, I think it was U-boat one.
No, it was World War II. That's right. Because there was all this World War I stuff, but there was the World War II Nazi submarine model.
What did they call it in World War One?
Were there submarines in World War I?
There's a submarine in the Civil.
I feel really dumb.
I mean, it was a death trap.
I feel really dumb saying that.
And there was a wooden submarine that they used in the American Revolutionary War.
U-boats used by Germany in the First and Second World War. Why did I think there were no submarines in World War One? Never mind.
There was a wooden submarine in the Brooklyn Narrows during the Revolutionary War. It was technically a submarine.
That is actually one of the main plot points for the Clive Cussler book Sahara that we're going to get to.
That was a huge book, and Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, Sahara was massive.
It was a really fun read. And I'm not going to fault anything that gives us a Matthew McConaughey vehicle.
I guess it wasn't a submarine. It was an ironclad, but that's right. So that was the deal with the ironclads, was they were so heavy that like 98% of them is underwater, and there's only the part on top that has all the armor and the guns.
That was the storyline with they were hiding Lincoln's body?
Yes.
Okay.
Lincoln's body and Lincoln's gold and all this stuff. I think that might have been the first Dirk Pitt book I ever read. Because I remember reading that in the back of the car one day and going, holy crap, this is amazing.
How old are you?
At 12.
Clive Cussler got you hooked on Villainous.
Yep.
The wooden submarine thing was part of the culprit ring for the Revolutionary War. It was a spy ring, and I know that they had the guys, how they convinced them, I have no idea. Like, to get into this, they had the submarine up, you get in, we're going to push you down, push you to the side, go real fast. We'll see you off. Good luck, boys. And they had to...
That was the one that had, like, the hand crank drill, right? And the whole point was to, like, drill holes in the enemy hulls underwater and then
they
just let them sink?
Gunpowder.
Ah.
Wooden ships. It's a hard sell for me to get into that boat.
I've listened to a lot of Well, There's Your Problem and Lions Led by Donkeys, and it really seems like there was no shortage of people willing to do, certain death for minimum wage back then.
Oh, yeah, and there was a whole lot of, we're not going to tell you what's going to happen after you do this. You get in the tube, then we put the instructions on the cards after we sealed you, and then you figure it out.
We've worked all the kinks out of this thing. You just got to drive it. It's dead easy, no problem.
Do this or you get shot is a very powerful motivator. In war and in all things. Marriage, proposals. You get a gun in there, your outcome is more assured.
You can definitely tell who's the American in this podcast.
Oh my God, you're right. Oh my God. Excuse me, I have to go straight to school.
Too soon.
You're right. Because of the school shooting today. But that's every day.
Yeah.
They were 3.
Oh, jeez.
Dear listener, Stephanie, they were minor ones. I'm not a monster. It wasn't Sandy Hook. I'm digging myself a grave, but there were small shootings today.
Hooray.
From what I could expect from my society, it's a win.
Yay, small victories.
Indeed. Now we're chapter 8, and I'm getting a little sleepy.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, do we want to cover chapter 8, the Year of the Donkey, next episode?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay. Chapter 8 is a very peculiar chapter.
I really did enjoy his description of the darkness. He did have a fun time writing that.
Yes. All right, so we will wrap it up here at the end of chapter 7. Dirk is standing in the Greek dawn, naked and covered in blood.
As am I.
And he has to get back to his boat before it explodes.
What's his day-to-day like, do you think? Like, what's he eat for breakfast? How does he prep for these days? Who's doing the laundry?
I think his breakfast is beer and cigarettes.
His clothes just fall off of him in the burnt ember of the heroic sunlight, and then new clothes appear freshly laundered by the next lady who's going to get slapstick on the beach.
Nope, even though he ends up on the beach next chapter, nobody has sex. Just him and the donkey.
Oh, that must have been an oversight. Cutting room floor. I think I'm having an adrenaline crash. I'm like, oh, I wasn't frightened or anxiety. It all went well. And my body's like, hey, you can relax now.
Relaxing too hard.
Yeah.
Then you just kind of fall off.
The nice man who I've met several times now, the internet, you haven't come through and punched me in the face. I don't know what my body is expecting with the anxiety. It's nice that it's a habituation. I'm finally going outside. I'm meeting people.
This is like being outside and meeting people.
And if you're listening to this, anyone, God bless you. I don't believe in God, but I will summon one. Anyone you want. Bless you.
Thank you so much to any and all of our listeners out there.
Except
all
me.
three of you. We know who you are. We have your addresses.
We love you. All one of you. Thank you.
This has been Cussler Hustlers. Your hosts have been Topper and Nancy. Find us on Twitter and Instagram at Cussler Hustlers.